Yo, what up guys? Welcome to Game Over Entertainment, and this week on The Walking Dead Wednesday, questioning whether or not Kenny and Jane are doomed in The Walking Dead Season 3. Alright, now these are two very determinate characters at the end of the second season finale, where one of them or both of them could be dead or just not involved in the storyline at this point. Now there are basically 7 different endings the way that you could end season 2 altogether if you want to get like real specific, but there are 3 core differences that I think could possibly be carrying over to a Walking Dead third season. Now this is of course if we continue with Clementine's storyline. There is no way they can do that without at least talking about Kenny or Jane in some dialogue context if they're not going to actually show these characters. And at first when I made this video, I said that Kenny and Jane are definitely not going to have a big involvement in season 3, are definitely set up for death and will not be playing a substantial role. But now since then, some things have happened within the Telltale camp that makes me believe otherwise, that these characters could have a chance of living on in the storyline in some form or fashion. So since then we have 2 other games that came out. Spoiler alert for these 2 games, I'm gonna have to, in order to give you the examples. Tales from the Borderlands, they had a determined character, the old man who was a mentor who taught Sasha and Fiona how to steal. Him, you had the choice whether to let him die in one point or to save his life, and he ended up coming up later on in the last episode of the series, and you can run back into him if you had kept him alive. So that's a determined character right there, making a difference in the ending, changing the ending up. So that was substantial for Telltale. And also we had another one in the Game of Thrones series, and this one right here makes me think that this could possibly be a true case, because in this instance we had Roderick or Asher in an epic choice at the end of episode 5, with the that choice actually definitely carrying over to the last and final episode, where one character is the person you're playing as and one character is not. That was a pretty significant stepping stone for Telltale right there, and they didn't actually kill those characters off at the end of the season either. So they are still alive somewhere out there. Will they be the playable characters again? I don't know about that. I don't know if we ever be playing as Roderick Forrester or Asher Forrester as a playable character, but they will probably, there's no way they cannot be involved in the story in some form or fashion, or they would have just killed them off, So that makes me believe that these determinate characters, Jane and Kenny, could still have a significant difference in season 3. Now I see a couple ways they can do this as far as season 3 goes, as long as it's, like I said, involving Clementine's storyline. If it's not her, then all bets are off. But in the beginning we can have like Kenny or Jane there in the beginning, and then we can have them being separated or somehow disconnected from them, and also showing up again in later episodes, maybe making cameos, coming in real quick, and them being involved in the story that way. Or we can have a time skip right in the beginning where Kenny and Jane are not in the picture, but they show up later, maybe even toward the ending, maybe toward the finale and stuff like that, just the same way they did in Tales from the Borderlands. Okay, so I do think that there's a future out there for Kenny and Jane, and I don't think there's any way they can have a character like as influential or as involved as Kenny is, not just whisk out a storyline without giving him a proper, scene, a proper demise if they are going to kill him, because he's just too important to the Walking Dead storyline, and to do that would just be, well, I think fans will be really upset with that. So they have to have Kenny in there somewhere, at least. Alright guys, so do you think Telltale has changed their ways? Because before Game of Thrones and Tales from Borderlands, it would have been guaranteed that these characters did not have a future in this, but do you think there's actually a chance they could still be alive? And one other obstacle I see that Telltale may be facing as far as the choices go from carrying over from season 1 to season 3 is that we are in a new generation of console gamers. We're in a new generation. Last year, when The Walking Dead first was released, season 2, it was Xbox 360 and PS3. There was no Xbox One and PS4. Now there are those new systems. How will they carry over those old save files, your endings, over to the new platforms? I'm not exactly sure how they would do that. Maybe they could use the Telltale account thing that they have going on, but that's kind of new. Signing up with Telltale, you see that in the beginning of these Telltale games nowadays, these modern ones, but They didn't have those back in the day when Walking Dead Season 2 was out, so I'm not really sure how your save files can carry over. Or maybe they can give you some type of pretext dialogue in the beginning where you get to choose how did you end, so they will know how to start the thing off from the get-go. That's the only way I can see this going, and then we continue on from there. Alright, now I've already mentioned that I think Wellington is the central location, will be a very nice location because it's something new and unique, something we haven't seen before, and we haven't actually entered Wellington either, so we don't know what the inside looks like. That's still a mystery of what's going on inside this community, so I think that's highly a possibility. But yeah guys, those are my thoughts, my revised thoughts on Kenny and Jane being in season 3. There is still hope for these characters, and Telltale has this opportunity to break the Walking Dead determinate character curse. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that Kenny or Jane are going to be involved in every single scene in season 3, hand holding Clementine the entire time. No way. But like, what is significant determinate characters? I don't know. That really hasn't been established yet. Like, how much Kenny do we have to see? How much, character development do we have to have within these characters, Jane or Kenny, before we get satisfied? Like, okay, that's enough. And if they kill him after that point, you be like, all right, you fulfilled your determinate status. Okay, you're not one of those whisked away determinate characters. I'm not too sure. Like, how much involvement do they need to have before you don't feel cheated out that your choice doesn't matter? That's still a question. So yeah, sound off in the comments down below. Let me know your thoughts about this, and I'll catch you next week for another Walking Dead Wednesday. Don't forget to slap the thumbs up button, and I'm out here. Game over, out.
You're as stubborn as a damn mule.
Yeah? Wonder where I got that from.